In the bustling Bay Area, Hayden Clemenco's journey began. A passionate student, he spent 3 years at Santa Rosa Junior College, where the baseball diamond knew him well as a proud Bear Cub. In 2021, his academic pursuits led him to the sunny quarters of San Diego State University. By 2023, with a bachelor's degree in business administration in hand, Hayden was ready to conquer the world. Porchlight Realty recognized his potential, and soon Hayden was navigating the intricate world of financial analysis. His prowess in cash flow analysis and financial planning was evident, but beyond the confines of his office, Hayden was a force of nature. His love for sports saw him diving into weightlifting, MMA, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A blue belt holder from Victory MMA and Fitness, Hayden's Instagram was a testament to his dedication, often showcasing his feats in grappling tournaments. But on July 4th, 2023, a somber cloud cast a shadow over Yosemite National Park. Hayden, the vibrant young man from the Bay Area, was missing. Last seen near the upper Chilnualna Falls Trail, the park's serene beauty hid a chilling mystery. As the clock ticked, reports emerged of Hayden venturing near a waterfall off the designated trail. The waters of the creek, usually calm in July, were raging, fueled by snowmelt. The search was on. Park rangers, with hope in their hearts, scoured every inch of the park. But nature, in all its unpredictability, had other plans. A week later, a mere 300 feet from where Hayden was believed to have been swept away, the search came to a heart-wrenching conclusion. The treacherous conditions of the area, with its slippery granite and roaring waters, had claimed another soul. Park Ranger Steve Lyon, with a heavy heart, recounted the challenges faced during the search. The cold waters, with temperatures plunging to near freezing, made survival near impossible. The terrain, rugged and unforgiving, posed risks even to the seasoned rescue teams. Hayden's family remembered him as the athlete who had just completed a strenuous hike to the upper falls, a testament to his enduring spirit. This tragedy serves as a stark reminder of nature's unpredictable temperament. As Park Ranger Lyon reflected on the incident, his words resonated with the somber truth. While Yosemite is a place of beauty, it demands respect and caution. In the echoing silence of Yosemite, Hayden Clemenco's story serves as a reminder to the delicate balance between man and nature, and the caution one must take in pursuing trails out in the wild. In the vast expanse of California's Sequoia National Park, where the mountains touch the sky and the valleys echo with whispers of ancient tales, a new story was unfolding. Tom Gerbier, an esteemed pilot from Air France, had set his sights on a different kind of adventure. Leaving behind the familiar hum of airplane engines, he sought the silence and call of Mount Whitney, California's towering giant. Tom, a 38-year-old native of Fontenay-sous-Bois, France, was a master of the skies. His journey had taken him across continents, but the allure of Mount Whitney, with its rugged beauty and challenging terrains, was irresistible. As he embarked on this journey, little did he know that the mountain had its own tales to tell, some of them not so kind. When Tom failed to board his return flight, days turned into nights, and a shiver of concern rippled through those who knew him. The vastness of the national park, with its dense forest and winding trails, hold many secrets. The National Park Service, paired with the expertise of the Inyo County Search and Rescue, began their quest to uncover one such secret. The mountain, while majestic, is also treacherous. Its paths, though well-trodden, hold areas where one misstep can lead to tragedy. The Notch, a notorious stretch in the mountain, seemed to have an ensnare on Tom in its cold grasp. Ground teams, while navigating the challenging mountaineering route, stumbled upon a series of clues that painted a grim picture. A fall, heart-stopping and chilling, from a height of 1,000 feet. As the sun cast long shadows over the mountain, a Park Service helicopter, cutting through the silence, spotted a lone figure lying still. The Tulare County Sheriff's Office, with heavy hearts, confirmed that it was Tom. Air France, a company that had seen Tom conquer the skies, was wrapped and shrouded in grief. This tale of adventure and loss isn't the first for Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park this year. Mount Whitney, often described as the crown jewel of the Sierra Nevada, beckons adventurers with its serene song. The Mount Whitney Trail, stretching over 22 miles, offers both beauty and peril. It's a path that promises unparalleled views, but demands respect, preparation, and caution. As the story of Tom Gerbier joins the legends of Mount Whitney, it serves as a reminder of nature's dual nature, breathtakingly beautiful, yet unpredictably fierce. The mountains, while inviting, will always keep some secrets, whispering tales of adventures, dreams, and the price some pay in their pursuit. In the heart of the wild, amidst the towering peaks and dense forests of the Rocky Mountain National Park, a mystery unfolds. The sun casts a golden hue over the landscape, but a shadow of uncertainty looms. Chad Pallanish, an expert runner with a passion for the trails, set out on September 28, 2023. He was no stranger to the winding paths of these mountains, yet on this day, he chose the North Inlet Trail, a path less familiar to him. With every step, he ventured deeper into the unknown, the rhythm of his heartbeat echoing the crunch of leaves beneath his feet. Dressed in a black ultralight jacket, a gray fanny pack snugly wrapped around his waist, and black running shorts, Chad was prepared for his journey. In his possession was a personal navigation system, a beacon of hope, yet it was set for emergencies only. The vastness of the Rocky Mountains is both its beauty and its challenge. From the sky, helicopters capture breathtaking views of the terrain, a mosaic of greens, browns, and the shimmering blues of distant lakes. But this beauty is deceptive. The weather in these mountains is a fickle friend. One moment, the sun might smile warmly, and the next, snow and ice can transform the landscape into a treacherous maze. Yet, hope is a resilient flame. It refuses to be extinguished. Teams from all corners of the state, driven by this hope, have joined the search for Chad. The Front Range rescue dogs, with their keen senses, scour the ground. The Alpine Rescue Team, seasoned experts of the mountains, navigate the challenging terrains. Aircraft from the Colorado Department of Fire Prevention soar above, their eyes sharp, looking for any sign of Chad. The search area is vast and daunting. From the North Inlet to the East Inlet trails, the teams traverse Mount Alice, Black Lake, and many more regions. Each location presents its own set of challenges, its own mysteries, but the search teams are undeterred, their determination a beacon of hope in the vast wilderness. For those who have ventured into the wilderness, they know its allure and its dangers. The weather, especially in the high mountains, is unpredictable. A sunny day can quickly turn into a snowy evening. It's believed that Chad embarked on a 28-mile journey that day. He might have crossed the Continental Divide, perhaps even explored new routes, driven by his passion for running and his love for the outdoors. As the days pass, the weight of uncertainty grows heavier, but the search teams, Chad's family, and friends hold on to hope. The vastness of the Rocky Mountains is a reminder of nature's grandeur and unpredictability. Yet, amidst this vastness, the human spirit shines brightly, unwavering in its determination and hope. For Chad, the Rocky Mountain National Park was a haven, a place of adventure and exploration. And as the search continues, there's a collective hope that he will be found, that he will once again run the trails that he so loves. The story of Chad Pallanish is a testament to the resilience of human spirit, the beauty and challenges of nature, and the unbreakable bond of community. As the sun sets over the Rocky Mountains, casting a golden hue, the search continues, and hope remains undiminished that Chad will be found. In 1985, amidst the sprawling landscapes of Sacramento, California, resided Kevin O'Keefe, a 36-year-old man whose heart beat for the great outdoors. His spirit was ever drawn to the call of the wild, a passion that was deeply rooted within his adventurous soul. Kevin wasn't just an outdoor enthusiast. He was a man who found solace in the embrace of nature, a sanctuary in the whispering woods, and freedom in the rugged trails that he often trod. His dreams were painted with visions of the Alaskan wilderness, a frontier known for its pristine beauty and untamed wilderness. It was a place where nature spoke in its purest form, and life thrived away from the clutches of civilization. For Kevin, Alaska was not just a destination. It was a calling that he yearned to answer. As the summer of 1985 approached, Kevin found himself immersed in meticulous research, seeking a haven in Alaska that resonated with his adventurous spirit. His quest led him to Glacier Bay National Park, a realm of nature that, even by Alaskan standards, was renowned for its wilderness and sheer remoteness. It was a land where glaciers stood sovereign and the echoes of wildlife reverberated in the crisp air. Understanding the perils that the Alaskan wilderness presented, especially when braving it alone, Kevin was prudent. He enrolled in a survival class specifically tailored for the challenges of the Alaskan wilds. He wasn't just a dreamer, he was a planner, a survivor, a man who respected nature's might and knew the importance of preparation. On September 20th, 1985, with resolve in his heart and excitement coursing through his veins, Kevin journeyed from Sacramento to Juneau, Alaska. From there, he traversed the rugged paths leading to Glacier Bay National Park. Upon his arrival, he introduced himself to the park rangers, sharing his plans to venture into the solitude near Wolf Point, a serene locale by the water's edge. He intended to immerse himself in this wilderness and escape until October 10th, a 3-week journey into nature's heart. However, as the days passed, a silence fell over Kevin's expected whereabouts. No word came from him, no sign of his presence, but concern was not immediate. After all, this trip was his escape, a hiatus from reality, a communion with nature in its rawest form. The tranquility of the scenario was disrupted on October 8th. 2 days shy of Kevin's intended departure. Park rangers, patrolling the waterways near Wolf Point, decided to check on the solitary camper. What they discovered unnerved them. Kevin's tent, disheveled, misplaced from its original setting, with personal gear scattered not chaotically, but noticeably outside. The tent structure was compromised, with a central strut noticeably damaged. Calls for Kevin reverberated through the wilderness, but only silence greeted them. The rangers, though puzzled, initially conjectured that Kevin might be preparing for his return journey, or perhaps had ventured out on a brief hike. Their concern escalated when a return visit the next day revealed an unchanged scene. The campsite lay untouched, the gear remained unmoved, and Kevin's absence grew more ominous. It was clear something was wrong. A comprehensive search ensued, with planes soaring over the wilderness and search teams scouring the ground accompanied by dogs. Despite their exhaustive efforts, Kevin seemed to have vanished into thin air. Strangely, all of his essential equipment, including a fully packed backpack, was found at the campsite. More bizarre was the untouched food, an anomaly in the wild, where creatures were often lured by the scent of the sustenance. The mystery deepened when search dogs discovered Kevin's boots, glove liner, and hat concealed in a gully a half a mile from his camp. There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of an animal attack, an aspect further corroborated by the untouched food and the absence of wildlife activity around his campsite. Desperate for answers, investigators approached Kevin's family, seeking insights into his state of mind or any underlying intentions. However, all they received were affirmations of Kevin's positive disposition, his excitement for the trip, and his thorough preparations. There was no inkling of despair, no desire for self-harm, no plans for anything but solitude in the embrace of nature. Yet, the man who had ventured into the wild with dreams in his eyes and a love for nature in his heart had disappeared, leaving behind a trail of questions and a shroud of mystery. What had transpired at that desolate campsite? What force had been responsible for the disarray and the relocation of the tent, and also the abandoned gear? If not for the ferocity of wildlife, then why would have Kevin disappeared? The wilderness holds its secrets closely, and in the case of Kevin O'Keefe, the answers remain concealed. His story, like many tales of those who seek communion with the untamed, serves as a reminder of nature's unpredictable character and the mysteries that dwell within its depths. In the year 2000, the wilderness had a familiar face in Patrick Whan, a 33-year-old whose life was deeply intertwined with the great outdoors. More than just an enthusiast, Patrick was a seasoned survivalist, his soul resonating with the untamed heart of nature. His footprints had marked thousands of miles along the Pacific Crest Trail, and his presence was a familiar one amidst the national park's sprawling expanses. Among these, Glacier National Park in Montana stood as his ultimate sanctuary, a place so frequented by him that the very contours of its landscape were etched in his heart, and his face known by the park rangers. Patrick's story took an unexpected turn on November 2nd of 2000 in Kiowa Junction, Montana. That day, fate intervened in the form of a deer crossing his path while he was driving. Witnesses recounted the compassion he showed towards the injured creature, pulling it to the roadside, cushioning its head with a pillow, and even offering it food from his own provisions. Then, in a move that puzzled onlookers, Patrick just walked away from the scene, leaving his truck behind, its fate to be towed away the following day. Whether this act was born from a sudden disdain for worldly possessions or a mechanical failure was unclear. The narrative fast-forwards 6 months, painting a picture of a concerned father reaching out to the rangers at Glacier National Park. His son Patrick had fallen off the grid, and his last known haven was the wilderness that he loved so much. Despite their familiarity with Patrick, the rangers had no sightings to report, but promised to keep their eyes open. Only a few weeks later, during a routine patrol, the rangers stumbled upon an eerie sight, a lone blue tent, its fabric beaten by the elements, yet strangely intact. It stood desolate in a campsite. The tent structure was compromised, its middle strut collapsed, hinting at long-term abandonment. Yet, a peek inside revealed an array of typical camping gear, all perfectly preserved. Water, food, stove, boots, clothes, everything a camper would need was there, except for the camper himself. What baffled the rangers was the untouched state of the tent, especially the food inside. It was as if the wild inhabitants, known for scavenging, had decided to respect the sanctity of this lone human abode. The authorities were summoned and a search commenced, but it was like Patrick had vanished into thin air. Cadaver dogs found no scent, and the mystery deepened when they discovered his truck still sitting in the tow yard, unclaimed since the deer incident. Among this mystery, one particular detail sent chills down the spines of the investigators. An empty buck knife case. It was as if Patrick had sensed a threat formidable enough to arm himself and step out into the dark, wild night. But what was that he faced? There were no signs of a violent struggle, no blood, no remains. The food in his tent remained undisturbed, countering the theory of a wild animal attack. Investigators also proposed a chilling theory. Patrick, possibly alerted by an ominous sound, might have confronted something outside his tent. The heavy mosquito presence suggested he wouldn't have left it open for long. Knife in hand, he would have faced whatever or whoever was out there, never to return to the safety of his shelter. The wilderness, with its unspoken laws, holds tightly onto this mystery. In the case of Patrick Whan, questions remain unanswered. If it wasn't the claws or jaws of a wild animal that led to his mysterious disappearance, then what was it that lurked in the shadows that night? What compelled a seasoned survivalist to step out into the unknown, leaving behind everything but his courage and his knife? The whispers of the wild carry tales told and untold, and the hushed tones between the rustling leaves and the howling winds. The story of Patrick Whan remains an unsolved mystery, a haunting lullaby in the symphony of the great outdoors. In the spring of 1976, the call of adventure echoed in the heart of 19-year-old Stephen Thomas, an ardent hiker whose passion for the great outdoors was about to lead him on a mysterious journey. His close friend, Bruce Weber, extended an invitation to him to join him and 4 acquaintances on a hiking expedition in the rugged terrains of New York State. Despite not knowing the others, Stephen's bond with Bruce and his love for hiking propelled him to accept the offer. Their destination was Mount Marcy, a towering behemoth among the peaks of the East Coast, known for its unforgiving terrain, biting winds, and plummeting temperatures as one ascended towards its summit. It was a mountain that demanded respect and caution, its treacherous paths and unpredictable weather posing a challenge even to the most experienced hikers. On the morning of departure, a shadow of foreboding loomed as Stephen's mother expressed her apprehensions. She harbored an ominous feeling about the trek, particularly since Stephen would be in the company of strangers on such a perilous journey. However, confident in his hiking ability and by the excitement of the adventure ahead, Stephen reassured her of his safety and set out with promises of returning in a few days. On April 12, 1976, the group of 6 made their ascent up Mount Marcy, reaching near the summit by late afternoon. Despite the allure of the peak, exhaustion weighed heavily upon them, and they collectively decided to set up camp and postpone the final climb to the following day. All were content with this decision, except for Stephen. Relentlessness seemed to grip him as he sat in Bruce's tent, poring over the map of Mount Marcy. A burning desire to continue was evident in his eyes. He proposed a brief, impromptu trek up the path to Bruce, who, drained from the day's hike, suggested they wait until morning. Undeterred, Stephen continued to study the map, sipping tea, until he finally resolved to take a quick solo walk up the trail, promising to return shortly. Bruce, concerned, advised against it, citing the plummeting temperatures, encroaching darkness, and fierce winds. But Stephen, perhaps driven by an inexplicable compulsion, was adamant, donning just a yellow rain jacket over his t-shirt and pants and leaving behind his essential gear. He ventured out into the night. The conditions were oddly in his favor, and the snow was hard packed under the full moon's illumination, providing good visibility. The other hikers, though irked by his decision, were not worried. Stephen had a wealth of hiking experience under his belt, and the night, though cold, was clear. They expected him back in mere minutes. However, as darkness fully settled and the temperature sank below freezing, an hour passed with no sign of Stephen. His light attire was grossly inadequate for the frigid night, prompting the hikers to initiate a search. But before they embarked, they encountered an inexplicable problem. One hiker's usually energetic dog, which accompanied them on the hike, was suddenly petrified, refusing to leave the tent and appearing terrified of an entity outside, cowering in the corner. This behavior was unprecedented, according to the dog's owner, and it added an eerie layer to Stephen's disappearance. Despite the dog's fear, the men ventured out, calling for Stephen, concern growing with each unanswered call. The perilous night conditions eventually forced them back to their tents, hoping that Stephen had found refuge somewhere on the mountain. Dawn broke with no sign of Stephen, prompting a split in the group. Half embarked on a 4-hour trek to get help, while others continued to search near the camp. What followed was one of the most extensive search and rescue operations in New York State history, spanning 2 weeks with helicopters, dog teams, and ground searchers, combing the mountain to no avail. Stephen, despite his bright yellow jacket, seemed to have vanished into thin air. Refusing to give up, Stephen's 26-year-old brother, Bob, took up the mantle of the search. In peak physical condition and driven by his love for his brother, he dedicated an entire year to scouring Mount Marcy, becoming so familiar with its terrain that veteran park rangers joked that he knew it better than they did. Despite summiting over 600 times and covering more than 2,500 miles, Bob never found any signs of Stephen. However, his relentless search did lead to the discovery of another lost hiker's remains, bringing closure to a different grieving family. The mystery surrounding Stephen's disappearance proposed several haunting questions. What compelled him to venture alone into that treacherous night? What invisible terror kept the dog cowering in the corner of the tent? A fear so intense it chose isolation over following its owner. And how could Stephen, in his bright attire, elude detection, even after such an exhaustive search? The logical conclusion seems impossible. Stephen was not on the mountain, but if not there, where had he gone? Like many missing person cases in the wilderness, the answers remain elusive, lost perhaps to the wilderness itself. Yet, the human spirit's relentless quest for understanding persists, fueling theories and speculation about Stephen's fate on that fateful night in April of 1976. The strange disappearance of Mike Heron from the Great Smoky Mountains.
It would definitely be considered a cold case. My mind has gone 100 different ways. Anytime, of course, with all the hope we have of finding them, anytime we hear something, you start to believe it.
Michael Edwin Heron, known as Mike, who was 51 years old, was last spotted on his four-wheel drive ATV at approximately 11 a.m. on August 23, 2008, heading towards a densely wooded area close to his 100-acre residence on Bell Branch Road in Blount County, Tennessee. The location is adjacent to the boundary of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Bell Branch is just a really small road, single lane. It borders the national park. It's sort of back in the corner, so it's really secluded and away from everything.
Following an extensive search of the vicinity near his home, no evidence was discovered except for his abandoned ATV, which had its keys in the ignition, was in high gear, and had the kill switch turned off. There were no footprints, ripped pieces of clothing, noticeable paths through the dense vegetation, bloodstains, body tissue, or skeletal remains found in the area, indicating that Mike had never been there. The authorities presume that he had either been abducted or lost in the forest, while the family suspects that criminal activity was at play. Despite the passage of time, no new evidence has surfaced, leaving the question of what occurred to Mike Heron on that fateful day in August 2008 in the wilderness around Happy Valley, Tennessee, unanswered.
Believe it.
Your mind's just going over so many different things, and you have so many different ideas and just so many questions that you just want answered.
Mike Heron, who was roughly 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighed approximately 185 pounds, was last seen wearing a faded red t-shirt, khaki cargo shorts, and sandals when he disappeared. Had a snake bite scar on one of his feet, a surgical scar on the back of his knee, and a noticeable tattoo on his lower back, along with a few dental caps. Besides having mild high blood pressure, Mike was in good physical shape. He was a native of East Tennessee and attended Lanier High School, where he played football. Following high school, he worked as a trail trimmer for the Park Service, before starting a successful home building company, Mike Heron Builders, which his sons Matt and Andy also worked for. The company had sold much of its housing inventory in 2007, prior to the housing market crash of 2008 and 9, and there were no apparent financial difficulties. Mike was familiar with the Happy Valley region and owned a 100-acre farm with cattle. He enjoyed exploring caves and venturing deep into the nearby Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Happy Valley is an unincorporated community in Blount County, Tennessee, with approximately 500 inhabitants. It lies within a narrow valley bearing the same name on the northwestern border of the Great Smoky Mountains. Happy Valley Road is the primary road access to the area, linking U.S. Route 129 with the Look Rocks section of the Foothills Parkway. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park spans 522,419 acres and covers the ridgeline of the Blue Ridge Mountains, including the Great Smoky Mountains. Often shortened to the Smokies, this park center is crossed by the border between Tennessee and North Carolina, running from the northeast to the southwest. It was established by the United States Congress in 1934 and officially dedicated by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1940. The park features some of the highest mountains in the eastern part of the United States. The Appalachian Trail, which runs from Georgia to Maine, passes through the park. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is the most visited national park in the United States, with 12.5 million visitors in 2019. Mike's sons, Andy and Matt, were last in contact with him on Saturday, August 23rd, 2008. At around 9:30 a.m., Mike called his son Andy to inform him that he was leaving his condo in Maryville, Tennessee, and would be coming over to his house to collect a lawnmower and trailer for cutting grass on a property in Happy Valley.
He called me Saturday morning just to kind of let me know he was going to head up over the mountain for the weekend. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Although Andy was not home when his father called, he offered to help him load the mower onto the trailer. Matt, Mike's other son, received a voicemail from Mike with the same message. Mike regularly visited his farm in Happy Valley and was eager to mow the grass on a 40-acre neighboring property owned by missionaries who had been away for some time. Andy told his dad he could go ahead and transport the mower by himself if he didn't want to wait, because they only lived about a half hour apart. So he would either see his dad loading the mower and help him, or pass him on the drive. On his way home, Andy passed his dad on Gateway Road, and Mike had the mower and was likely heading towards Bell Branch Road. Later that morning, around 11 a.m., Mike's neighbor saw him pull into his driveway. His neighbor described it as he was hauling a piece of equipment on a trailer. 30 minutes later, they saw him on his four-wheeler ATV, and he waved as he drove down Bell Branch Road. Matt and Andy assumed their dad would call and return the mower and trailer to one of them when he was done, and they went on with their weekends. On Sunday, August 24th, their grandmother Alma called around 2 p.m. concerned that she hadn't heard from Mike and couldn't reach him on his cell phone, even though cell phone reception in Happy Valley was almost non-existent.
I was starting to worry when we were driving up there, just because the whole fact that we were having to drive up there, it was just odd, you know.
Earlier that morning, Alma, Mike's mother, had walked with Matt and Andy from their house on Happy Valley Road to Mike's house on Bell Branch Road, but there was no response when they knocked on his door. They saw Mike's truck in the driveway with a mower and trailer attached, just as their grandfather had seen it earlier that weekend. They also noticed that the lawn had not been mowed. However, Matt and Andy weren't too worried, as their father often spent time away from the house taking care of the cattle or working on the farm. The next day, on August 25th, Alma called again and expressed her concern that she still hadn't heard from Mike. This alarmed Matt and Andy, and they decided to check on their father. Matt first went to Mike's condo on Brown Court in Maryville, where he stayed during the week for work. There, he found 2 of Mike's 3 vehicles in the garage, but nothing seemed out of place. After checking the condo, Matt met up with Andy, and they both went to the farm on Bell Branch Road. Alma had gone back to the farmhouse to check on Mike, but she didn't find him. When Andy and Matt arrived, they saw that Mike's ATV was still in the front yard, and his truck was parked with a lawnmower and trailer attached to the back. Upon closer inspection, they found that the windows of the truck were down, the doors were unlocked, and Mike's keys, ID, and money clip were still inside the vehicle, which was very strange. Matt and Andy came to the realization that the old ATV their grandmother had seen on Mike's property was still there, while the new one that Mike had recently purchased was missing. In addition, Mike's truck was parked in an unusual position, as it was normally moved before the school bus arrived on Monday mornings. Matt was particularly worried about the missing ATV, because it suggested that Mike may have been in an accident and unable to return to the farm. On Monday, August 25th, around noon, the men informed some of the close family members of Mike's disappearance and contacted their mother, who drove to Happy Valley to help them search. Matt and Andy began searching their father's property by repairing a flat tire on an old ATV and driving through all the ATV trails and nearby campgrounds in the national park. They were unable to find any signs of their dad. Around 3 or 4 p.m., Matt and Andy called 911, reporting their father Mike missing to the National Park Service, who transferred the report to the Blount County Sheriff's Office.
Blount
That
County
was first
911.
called and immediately to the Blount County Sheriff's Department. And then within probably an hour or two, they had met us over at his house.
Between 6 and 7 p.m., search teams from the Sheriff's Office arrived to the farm, talked to Mike's friends in the neighborhood, and attempted to track him with a sniffer dog. However, the search was interrupted by heavy rain that persisted for several days. The search teams agreed to meet with the family before daylight the following morning to continue the search for Mike.
We were called out to his house. I remember it was raining.
That's where the old one was parked, right there. Got everybody together on Tuesday morning very early, and that's when we were doing the grid searches and all of that. And Tuesday, I think, around lunchtime is when they had found the four-wheeler.
It was just really oddly placed. Didn't really find a whole lot of evidence.
We grew up riding four-wheelers and dirt bikes. Me and my brother did, and my dad, and all of us did. And, you know, when you turn something off, you know, that has an ignition switch and a key, you turn the key off or it'll drain the battery, you know, the lights and stuff.
Gary Whitehead, one of Mike's neighbors who lived on Bell Branch Road, offered to lead search parties despite being in his 80s. When Mike went missing, Grady caught a glimpse of him as he drove past his house on his ATV and waved at him. The Heron and Whitehead families shared a close bond, having worked as a park ranger in the Great Smokey Mountains National Park for more than 3 decades. Grady was well versed with the terrain and possessed excellent tracking skills, and he couldn't believe Mike would just go missing. He was confident in his ability to locate Mike because the thick vegetation and habitat would leave a telltale sign, like flattened leaves, snapped twigs, and crushed bushes if someone had walked through an area or taken a tumble and then tried to seek help. On Tuesday, August 26th, a friend discovered his missing ATV around 12:05 p.m. near Happy Valley Loop, a road leading to Bell Branch Road and about a mile from Mike's residence. The ATV was in an uncommon location near an abandoned cabin and close to the national park, but not inside of it. It appeared to have been abandoned in a hurry or purposely ditched in the thick brush. The vehicle was undamaged and still had fuel in the tank, but it was found in high gear on a steep hill with the ignition switch on and the kill switch off, which was unusual behavior for Mike. Matt, Mike's son, noted that his father would never leave an ATV on as it would drain the battery. Upon seeing the ATV, Matt and his brother knew it was their father's, but they had no explanation as to why it was in that location. They immediately suspected foul play. The next day, over 50 community volunteers and deputies searched the area where the ATV was found. The search proved fruitless as no trace of Mike or any clues were found. The rain made it difficult to gather any forensic evidence, and the searchers could not find any footprints or a trail in the thick underbrush. Dogs were not able to pick up a scent, and there was no evidence of an animal attack, a struggle, or any foul play. The searchers found no torn bits of clothing, blood, tissue, or bones. It was as if Mike had just disappeared without a trace. Around 450 acres were searched by hundreds of volunteers and officials, with some of the area searched more than once, including aerial searches with the help of the Knox County Sheriff's Office helicopter, cadaver dogs from North Carolina, sheriff's deputies on horseback, private citizens with horses, ATVs, and grid searches of the backcountry on foot. The search also covered about 50 miles of hiking trails, and drones were used to map the area. The sheriff's office even brought in divers to search 2 ponds on Mike's property. No signs of human decay were detected by the cadaver dogs when they were brought in the following Wednesday. The official search for Mike Heron was called off by the Blount County Sheriff's Office on Friday, August 29, 2008. In January 2009, another search was conducted, and an article of clothing was found near the location where Mike's ATV was discovered. However, it did not match Mike's. Some bones were also discovered in a fire pit not far from the ATV location, but they were determined to be from a cow. Despite the thorough search, no trace of Mike, his clothes, or his belongings has been found in the woods around where the ATV was located. Friends and family have conducted searches in the years since his disappearance, but nothing has turned up. As a result, Matt and Andy organized an annual hike called Hike for Mike, along with the trails near Mike's property in Happy Valley. Despite a $15,000 reward, no new leads have been found. According to both his sons, Mike Heron would never have willingly left his family. Andy Heron, who had been married to his wife Casey for about 3 months at the time of Mike's disappearance, said that his father was a family-oriented person who loved the outdoors and the Bell Branch property. Matt Heron also expressed his belief that his father did not simply walk away, citing his close relationship with his mother and his excitement about becoming a grandfather. Matt also ruled out the possibility of suicide, stating that his father did not suffer from depression and had no financial or personal enemies. The ATV's ignition being left on suggests that Mike may have abruptly left the trail due to encountering or hearing something in the woods, or being confronted someone or something that caused him to immediately abandon his vehicle. There are some speculations that Mike disappeared as a result of a drug deal gone wrong, or after stumbling upon an illegal marijuana farm. The disappearance of Mike Heron is a tragic and unresolved case that has left his family and the community with more questions than answers. Despite extensive searches and investigations by law enforcement, no trace of Mike has been found.
Lights and stuff.
We get leads, we get tips, and we follow up on all of them. We just, we get tips up until like a couple months ago we had tips and we followed up on them.
Thought of a lot of different details, but there's no point in going there because it's just unknown.
We don't believe, there's not any scenario that I've ran to believe that he's still be alive. I believe that he's dead.
No, it's hard to believe. It's been 14 years. I'm just proud we've all made it through.
This case has led to various theories about what happened to Mike, ranging from foul play to accidental injury or encountering something dangerous in the woods. However, none of these theories have been confirmed, leaving the fate of Mike Heron a mystery. This story serves as a reminder of the importance of being safe and taking precautions when venturing into the wilderness. It's crucial to always inform someone of your planned route, bring necessary supplies and equipment, and to avoid unknown or potentially dangerous areas. Accidents can happen, and it's important to take measures to ensure your safety and the safety of others. In southeastern Arizona, nestled amongst the remote Chiricahua Mountains, lies a vast and rugged expanse of land known as the Chiricahua National Monument. This area is characterized by steep gullies, canyons, jagged rocks, and massive boulders balancing atop each other, creating a landscape that resembles the moonscape of some alien world. Despite its otherworldly appearance, the Chiricahua National Monument is part of a national park system. It holds a place on the National Register of Historic Places and is renowned for its natural beauty and unique rock formations. Visitors to this area can experience the wild and often lethal beauty of this land by hiking its scenic trails. However, the Chiricahua National Monument is also known for one of the most puzzling unsolved national park disappearances on record. The disappearance in question involves Paul Fugate, who at the time was a 41-year-old law enforcement ranger working for the National Park Service and stationed at the Chiricahua National Monument. Fugate was known for his enthusiasm as a ranger, his love for adventure, and his experience as a hiker. He was also highly knowledgeable of the region's terrain and geology. On January 13, 1980, a Sunday afternoon, Fugate told a seasonal staff member working with him at the Park Visitor Center that he was going to check the trail leading to a new 400-acre parcel of land acquired by the park called Fairway Ranch. After telling the staff member to close down without him if he wasn't back by 4:30 p.m., Paul Fugate, a seasoned park ranger, set out on the well-marked trail to the Fairway Ranch in his full ranger uniform and badge. It was supposed to be a quick hike, and Fugate didn't even bother to take his radio with him. He waved goodbye and casually walked out of sight. He then seemingly disappeared off the face of the earth. This would be the last confirmed time anyone would see him. When Fugate failed to return on time, a search was launched that involved tracking dogs, aircraft, and hundreds of law enforcement personnel from various agencies, including the National Park Service, the local Sheriff's Department, the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Forest Service, and the Southern Arizona Search and Rescue Association. Family members and volunteers also joined in on the search, starting with the trail to Fairway Ranch, where no trace of Fugate could be found, despite the search expanding to cover 17 square miles of rough and rugged terrain. Law enforcement authorities became increasingly desperate to locate Fugate and posted a $5,000 reward, which quickly ballooned to $20,000. However, none of this produced any leads. The only clue that seemed promising was from a witness who, under hypnosis, claimed to have seen Fugate unconscious in a truck between two unidentified men. There was absolutely no corroborating evidence to support this, and the witness himself admitted he could have been mistaken. The vehicle was traveling very fast, and ultimately, this lead led nowhere. Although it was widely assumed that Fugate had met with foul play, there was no concrete evidence to support this theory also. As the search for Fugate continued, various theories circulated about his disappearance. The most popular theory suggested that Fugate had stumbled upon drug dealers in the area and was either kidnapped or murdered, but once again, there was no evidence to support this. Another theory suggested that Fugate may have been attacked by a wild animal, or had suffered an injury from falling, but considering his experience as a ranger, it was considered unlikely. Another possible theory was that Fugate intentionally disappeared. One clue that supported this theory was his instruction to the visitor center staff to close the center if he had not returned by 4:30 p.m., suggesting that he knew he might not be back. However, Fugate's family has challenged the theory that he abandoned his post, as he had left all his money and belongings at his home, as well as an expensive car he had been restoring and his beloved camera equipment.
Paul and Dodie's longtime friend Barbara Elfbrand admits the mystery is often on her mind.
I don't have the belief that I did originally that it would be solved. All the good clues or breakthroughs have led to walls which they couldn't get through. I know that Paul didn't just leave on his own, and I would like to know what happened to him, and it would be closure, it would be peace.
Fugate's disappearance is still one of the most puzzling unsolved national parks vanishings on record. In 1986, the National Park Service officially declared Fugate deceased, despite having no conclusive evidence of his death. There have been criticisms of the authorities' handling of the case, including accusations that they did not take appropriate measures, such as extending the search area beyond the parkland, and that the FBI did not take the case seriously enough and tried to dismiss it. Despite the lack of evidence, rumors and theories about Fugate's disappearance have continued to circulate. Some have speculated that he stumbled upon drug dealers in the area and was killed or kidnapped, while others have suggested that he may have been attacked by a wild animal or intentionally disappeared. While there is no concrete evidence to support any of these theories, the mystery surrounding Fugate's disappearance has yet to be fully resolved. In June of 2018, the National Park Service made a surprising move by reopening the decades-old case of Paul Fugate's disappearance. This announcement was made suddenly and without explanation, but it came with a substantial increase in the reward for information, which now stands at $60,000. The National Park Service cited the discovery of new evidence as the reason for this decision, although no specifics were given. The sudden reopening of the case has raised questions and speculation about what this new evidence could be and whether it is significant enough to bring the case to a close. When the National Park Service was asked about the new evidence, they replied with, quote, "We have no new information and respectfully decline to interview at this time." The fact that Fugate's case was reopened after so many years is unusual, and it suggests that authorities have reason to believe that they may finally be able to solve this mystery. However, whether this means that they are close to finding Fugate or discovering what happened to him remains to be seen. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance are murky and riddled with theories, rumors, and speculation. The lack of evidence or leads has made it challenging for investigators to determine what really happened to Fugate. What makes this case particularly strange is that most National Park Service rangers who have gone missing have been found, or at least some trace of them have been discovered. However, in Fugate's case, there is no concrete evidence to indicate what might have happened to him. Despite the renewed interest in the effort to solve this case, it seems that the disappearance of Paul Fugate remained a baffling mystery, at least for the time being. 64 years old, Randy Morgenson had been a backcountry ranger at the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks for 28 seasons, making him the most experienced ranger in the High Sierra. On July 21st, 1996, he wrote a note on his tent, though he mistakenly wrote June 21st instead of July, indicating that he would be gone for a few days, and left his station near Bench Lake without his Smith & Wesson .357 Magnum. Unfortunately, Randy never returned and was never seen alive again. Randy had grown weary of dealing with what he referred to as swinus americanus, a type of backpacking tourist whose trash he had to clean up and whose bad behavior often caused him great frustrations. Sadly, this story involves the infidelity and the death of a highly experienced seasonal park ranger who had dedicated much of his life to the National Park Service. Located in the southern Sierra Nevada, California, Kings Canyon National Park boasts several impressive natural features, including the glacier-carved Kings Canyon, which is over a mile deep. Numerous peaks reaching over 14,000 feet, expansive meadows and high mountain areas, fast-moving rivers, and some of the world's largest collection of giant sequoia trees. Kings Canyon lies north and adjacent to Sequoia National Park, and both parks are jointly managed by the National Park Service under the name of Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. Additionally, Sequoia National Park can be found in the southern Sierra Nevada region, east of Visalia, California, and covers an area of 404,064 acres, which includes Mount Whitney, reaching a height of 14,505 feet above sea level within its boundaries. The park is particularly famous for its giant sequoia trees, among which the General Sherman tree, the largest tree on Earth. The giant forest in the park is also home to 5 of the 10 biggest trees in the world. Running from north to south, the Pacific Crest Trail / John Muir Trail combined route is a favorite among backpackers and spans an entire length of the park. Approximately 99% of the park's backcountry visitors tend to stick to its designated trails, which results in a vast majority of the park's terrain being managed and maintained by the backcountry rangers. Randy had a deep aversion to the unsightly mess that visitors would leave behind while exploring the park's pristine wilderness, which he dubbed backpacker detritus. In 1973, Mercure Meadow Log, he wrote about the importance of taking the path less traveled and not always seeking the easiest route in life. Randy encouraged readers to embrace their adventurous spirit and not rely on the trail signs or sturdy bridges. He urged people to seek out the beauty of the mountains for themselves and to be open to finding the goodness in whatever they encountered. According to him, the park was a place to be free from the constraints of everyday life and to live by whim, allowing oneself to get lost, fall into creeks, and discover beautiful places. Prior to the 1996 season, Randy expressed a sense of melancholy to his colleagues, questioning whether his many years as a ranger had been worth it. The sentiment wasn't surprising, as he had recently received divorce papers from his wife, Judy. Although she had joined him in the backcountry for many years, she had chosen not to accompany him in recent times. Randy had also been involved in an affair with a fellow ranger named Lo Linus, which had resulted in the divorce papers. He confided in a close friend and fellow rangers that he sometimes felt suicidal. On July 20th, 1996, he radioed this same colleague and his wife, asking mundane questions that were interpreted as Randy simply wanting someone to talk. The conversation was brief and it ended abruptly when Randy stated, "I won't be bothering you two anymore." The following day, Randy left his camp and was never seen alive again. While Randy was recognized for his minimal impact on the environment, the rainfall during the late July period made it difficult to determine where he was headed. Ranger Rick Sanger, a second-year backcountry ranger, became concerned when Randy didn't check in via radio for several days. Rick hiked through the night to Randy's duty station at Bench Lake and found a note indicating that he had not returned from a cross-country patrol and was now considered missing. This was reported on July 25th, 1996. The news of Randy's disappearance triggered one of the most grueling search and rescue missions in National Park Service history, particularly because the Rangers were searching for one of their own. Randy Kaufman, who was the incident commander, instructed the search teams to refer to Morgenson's logbook for any clues about Randy's whereabouts. He also held a secret vote among them to assign a POA, probability of area, and a ROW, rest of world, probability to each section of the search area, in case Randy was located outside of the designated search area. It was mandatory for the total percentage points assigned to each ranger to add up to 100, and no ranger could assign a 0 to any area among the 16 segments and the ROW segment. The Bench Lake Basin area had the highest POA percentage of 26.2%, with Marion Lake and its surrounding areas as the second highest at 19.2%. Ranger George Durkee, a close friend of Randy, was the only one who assigned a high percentage to the ROW option, knowing Randy's depressive thoughts at the time. Each segment, ranging from 500 to 7,000 acres, made the operation challenging and hazardous for the rescuers. The possibility of Randy not wanting to be found also loomed over the mission. Around 100 rescue personnel combed 80 square miles of wilderness, hoping that Randy's radio was malfunctioning or broken, or it was in a dead zone, or maybe his car had failed. Also, there were no signs of withdrawals from his bank account or usage of his credit cards. A special investigator discovered that Randy had several threats of violence twice, but both alleged perpetrators had alibis. CASIE, a computer program designed to simplify the calculations involving managing a search emergency, was used to monitor the search. However, the program was limited to surface areas and didn't factor in underground, underwater, or rockslide locations. Despite the efforts of the search team, including dogs and a FLIR helicopter equipped with infrared cameras, no trace of Randy was found. The search was eventually called off, and it was suspected that Randy had left the area to start a new life away from the National Park Service. 13 days after Randy's disappearance, a letter addressed to Randy and Judy Morgenson's home arrived, postmarked 2 days after his reported disappearance. This sparked suspicion as there was no postal service in the national park, and it was unclear how Randy could have sent the letter. The official search was called off in early August 1996, with no sign of Randy. After 5 years since the search for Randy was halted, a member of the trial building crew from California Conservation Corps, age 19, discovered some remains in July 2001. The young worker uncovered the new evidence near a creek situated in a gorge within the Widow Peak drainage area. The location was near the edge of the search area, below the pools of a waterfall. Rangers were called in and discovered a tattered shirt with Morgenson's badge, a backpack with a buckle fastened, and a boot with something white protruding from it. It was a leg bone. Upon closer inspection, the boot and pack seemed to match the description of gear that Randy was using when he went missing. Investigation and recovery teams were flown in, and a functioning park issue radio was found on top of the falls. The discovery confused investigators even more because rangers remembered searching the gorge and crossing that exact spot where the radio was found. Although these remains seemed to confirm that Randy had been in the mountains the whole time, investigators were unsure whether this was where he died. Retired Sierra Subdistrict Ranger Alden Nash believes that Randy had fallen through a snow bridge, broken his leg, and his body had been hidden beneath the ice throughout the search. In an eerie coincidence, during the rescue attempt in 1996, Judy had a dream of a dead man floating in a lake. Randy may have wanted to appear to have died on the job to make sure Judy, his wife at the time, got a $100,000 benefit from the government, a policy not honored in the case of suicide. The disappearance of Randy Morgenson provided several valuable lessons, including preparation is key. Randy was an experienced backcountry ranger, but he still encountered unexpected circumstances that led to his disappearance. It's important to be well prepared with appropriate gear, supplies, and knowledge before heading out to the wilderness. Safety procedures should always be followed. Rangers and other backcountry personnel must always follow established safety procedures, including regular communication check-ins and strict adherence to established protocols. The importance of search and rescue operations. The extensive and emotionally draining search and rescue operation for Randy shows how critical these operations are in helping locate and recover missing persons. The value of technology in search and rescue operations. The use of the Computer-Aided Search Information Exchange, CASIE, C-A-S-I-E, and infrared cameras help to streamline and focus the search for Randy. The power of perseverance. Despite the challenges and frustrations encountered during the search for Randy, the search and the investigation teams persevered and ultimately discovered his remains, bringing closure to his family, his colleagues, and his friends. In the autumn of 2012, the mysterious disappearance of Tomas Sabold, a 32-year-old survivalist and outdoor instructor, unfolded in the remote wilderness of Alaska, leaving more questions than answers. Born on June 27, 1980, in Germany, Sabold was a seasoned outdoorsman. standing 6 feet tall, weighing approximately 165 pounds, with green eyes, long auburn hair, and a distinctive mustache and beard. Sabold, who resided in Three Lakes, Wisconsin, was last seen alive between September 27th and 29th of 2012 at a fish camp cabin 30 miles north of Ambler, Alaska. His attire at the time of his disappearance remains unknown. In June of 2012, he embarked on a journey to explore Alaska's backcountry, planning to spend about 5 months in the wilderness. A skilled survivalist, Sabold had spent 6 years training and instructing at the Taking Drum Outdoor School, a center that teaches Native American values, weather forecasting, shelter building, and primitive hunting and gathering techniques. The school's founder, Tamarack Song, described Sabold as an experienced outdoorsman and a wandering spirit. Sabold was known for spending extended periods in the forest during winter, living in primitive structures and surviving off handmade snare lines. In summer, he would stay out for a month at a time in the Wisconsin Northwoods. Sabold's journey in Alaska began at a native fish camp in the southern part of the state. He traveled north along the Nano River near Fairbanks, living off the land. By September of 2012, he reached the village of Ambler and then traveled 30 miles up the Ambler River to a cabin owned by the Schreibers, a family Tamarack had connected with him. The Schreibers had lived in this remote location for nearly 20 years, raising 4 sons. After staying with the Schreibers until September 27th of 2012, Sabold continued his journey into the gates of the Arctic National Park and Preserve. He was expected to be back in touch by early November, with a flight scheduled for November 15th back to Wisconsin. However, something prevented him from following his plans to travel to the town of Kobuk to catch his flight. When Sabold missed his flight, Alaskan State Police were alerted to his disappearance on November 11th of 2012. A search led by Sergeant Dwayne Stone began near the junction of the Ambler River, where Sabold might have set up a base camp. The search faced severe weather conditions, with temperatures dropping to minus 23 degrees Fahrenheit with short daylight hours. The area's remoteness and challenging terrain made the search operation difficult. After 6 flights over 13 days, the search was suspended on November 24th due to the plummeting temperatures. Family and friends resumed the search, hiring bush pilots and covering 3,500 square miles, but to no avail. Clues such as a missing map section, a book describing traditional Eskimo routes, and Tomas's interest in rafting down the Ambler River provided some insight, but no concrete answers. Sabold's disappearance remains a mystery. He was declared legally deceased in 2013, although no remains have ever been found. This case highlights the unpredictability and dangers of the wilderness, even for experienced individuals like Sabold. His story serves as a reminder of the importance of safety measures, such as carrying a personal locator beacon when venturing into remote areas. As of August 2023, there have been no further updates on this case. Samantha Sers, a woman whose spirit and love for the great outdoors have left an indelible mark. Known to her friends as Sam, she's a figure of strength and inspiration. In her teenage years, Sam faced a challenge that would test anyone's resolve: alopecia, an autoimmune condition that resulted in the loss of all her hair. But Sam, with her unbreakable spirit, embraced her baldness with pride, becoming a beacon of confidence and charm among her peers. Sam's passion for nature was kindled during her studies at the State University of New York, where she pursued a master's in technical theater design and technology. Post-graduation, she moved to Seattle, a city known for its stunning natural landscapes. It was here that Sam's life took a romantic turn when she met Kevin Dares, a single father of 3, through Tinder. Their shared love for the wilderness saw them exploring Seattle's majestic peaks and mountains, creating memories in the lap of nature. However, in August of 2018, a solo hike on a familiar trail turned into a profound mystery. Sam set out to conquer the Vesper Peak Trail in the North Cascades National Park, a challenging route not meant for the faint-hearted. She planned a day-long hike, assuring Kevin she'd be back by dusk. But as night fell, Sam didn't return, setting off a chain of events that would lead to one of the most baffling missing person cases in recent American history. Despite an extensive search involving volunteers, law enforcement, and even infrared-equipped helicopters, no trace of Sam was found. The only clues to her presence in the park were her car in the parking lot and her signature on a trail log. The search lasted 22 days and ended with more questions than answers. Theories about Sam's disappearance abound, from a tragic accident in the treacherous park to more sinister possibilities, possibly involving foul play. Her mother, Lisa, suspects that there is more to the story than meets the eye. Sam, described as a white female with a distinctive bald head, green eyes, and stars on a vine tattoo across her head, was last seen in a green sports bra and gray hiking pants. This story isn't just a tale of a missing person. It's a narrative about a woman whose love for nature and indomitable spirit continue to inspire. If you have any information about Samantha Claire Sers, please reach out to Detective Kendra Connolly of the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. Let's keep the spirit of adventure and hope alive as we seek answers in this mysterious case. Vernon Cody Matthews, at 23 years old, was not just an anthropology student at the University of California, Berkeley. He was a young man with a profound passion for the past. Known affectionately as Cody, his fascination with dinosaurs and archaeology often led him to participate in digs, earning him the playful nickname Indiana Jones from his parents. His love for anthropology, archaeology, and geology was deep-rooted, and he was equally skilled in survival techniques, making him an experienced outdoorsman in his early 20s. This background makes the circumstances of his disappearance in the wilderness deeply perplexing, leaving his family and friends in a state of ongoing bewilderment. In early June of 2014, Cody embarked on a journey from his university dorm to Pollock Pines, California, situated near the majestic Sierra Nevada mountains. The Matthews family owned a cabin in this serene location, and Cody's parents, Vern and Cindy, planned to join him a few days later. This arrangement was perfect for Cody, who relished the opportunity to connect with nature, living off the land and exploring the dense forests surrounding the cabin. However, on June 6th, Cindy received a phone call from Cody that would mark the beginning of a mysterious and unsettling series of events. Instead of sharing exciting tales of his time at the cabin, Cody relayed the alarming news that the cabin had been ransacked. The thieves had made off with jewelry, cameras, and tools amounting to a loss of between $13,000 and $18,000. Vern and Cindy were understandably shaken by this news and quickly made plans to head to the cabin the following day. Before ending the call, Cindy and Cody discussed his plans for the afternoon, during which Cody mentioned he was going for a hike. Little did they know, this conversation would be their last. Upon arriving at the cabin, Vern and Cindy were met with a series of bizarre clues. A heavy saw, requiring at least 2 people to move, was inexplicably placed in the driveway. A kettle was left on the stove, and an unfinished plate of eggs sat in the kitchen. Their calls for Cody echoed unanswered, and a wave of panic set in. They scoured every inch of the cabin, only to find that the security and animal cameras installed for protection had been completely destroyed, and there was evidence of forced entry through the cabin's side door. With no sign of Cody, and after countless failed attempts to reach him on his cell phone, his parents contacted the El Dorado County Sheriff's Department. The authorities, along with Cody's parents, deduced that he had left for his hike with just a few essentials: a bottle of water, a hunting blade, a compass, his phone, and a bag of trail mix. The last signal from his phone was traced to 6:30 p.m. on June 6th near the South Fork of the American River. The newspaper reported that the ping showed Cody moving towards the house before ending in the water. An extensive search operation was launched, involving volunteers, law enforcement officials, dog teams, divers, and helicopters. They meticulously combed the Pollock Pines area and the banks of the American River, but no trace of Cody was ever found. After 8 days of relentless searching, the operation was called off, leaving more questions than answers. The Matthews family, haunted by the possibility of foul play, speculated that the cabin burglary might be connected to Cody's disappearance. However, investigators have not established a definitive link between the two incidents. The family's grief was compounded in September of 2014 when a wildfire, later determined to be arson, ravaged Pollock Pines and destroyed the Matthews family cabin. The connection between this act of arson and Cody's disappearance remains speculative, adding another layer of mystery to the already baffling case. Years have passed since Cody's disappearance, but Vern and Cindy Matthews continue to honor their son's memory and hold onto hope for answers. Vernon Cody Matthews is described as a white male with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a full reddish-colored beard, standing 6 foot 3 inches tall and weighing 220 pounds. He was last seen wearing shorts, no t-shirt, and barefoot-style shoes. Anyone with information that could shed light on this enduring mystery is urged to come forward. Cody's story is not just a missing persons case. It's a narrative that resonates with all who cherish the wilderness and the mysteries that it holds. In the tranquil town of Appleton, Wisconsin, the disappearance of 22-year-old Nicholas Hidas has left both his family and investigators grappling with unanswered questions. Nicholas, a young man with a profound connection to the wilderness, often spent his weekends hiking and exploring the natural world with his faithful companion, a white German shepherd named Samantha. So when Nicholas vanished without a trace from his home in Appleton, the community was left in a state of shock and disbelief. The last confirmed sighting of Nicholas and Samantha was on April 1st, 2019, at his residence. The details surrounding his disappearance, including his last known activities or the circumstances leading up to his vanishing, remained shrouded in mystery. Alarm bells rang when Nicholas failed to show up for work and lost contact with his family, prompting them to report him missing. Despite the gravity of his disappearance, the incident received surprisingly sparse news coverage, leaving many questions unanswered and the community in a state of unease. In response, Nicholas's family, friends, and the Appleton Police Department launched a search. The streets of Appleton were covered with missing person poster flyers, and the Appleton Police Department made a public appeal for any information that could lead to Nicholas. For 18 days, Nicholas's family endured an agonizing wait for news. Then, on April 18, 2019, the Appleton Police Department encountered their first and only significant lead. Nicholas's 2012 black Ford Fusion was found abandoned in a remote area near Highway 64 and Shadow Lake Road, across from the dense, sprawling national forest. This area, known for its thick brush and dense vegetation, seemed an unlikely place for Nicholas to have traveled without a specific purpose. Adding to the mystery, there was no sign of Nicholas or Samantha near the car. Intriguingly, Samantha's collar appeared to have been deliberately removed, suggesting a possible struggle or an intentional act. About a mile from where the vehicle was found, investigators discovered a tarp and some gear. This discovery led to a massive search operation involving scent dogs, drones, and search and rescue personnel, but all efforts to find Nicholas or any further clues proved fruitless. By 2020, the Appleton Police Department had informed the local newspaper that the case had gone cold, with no new leads or developments. The mystery of Nicholas's disappearance remains unsolved, leaving a void in the hearts of those who knew him. Nicholas is described as a white male with brown hair and eyes, standing between 5'10" and 6 feet tall, weighing between 170 and 190 pounds. He has a distinctive tattoo of 2 squiggly uppercase Y's on his left wrist and was last seen wearing a black Gucci sweatshirt, blue American Eagle jeans, and brown or mustard color steel-toed work boots. The story is not just about a missing person. It's a narrative that resonates with all who cherish the wilderness and the mysteries that it holds. Anyone with information that could shed light on this enduring mystery is urged to contact investigator Chad Riddle of the Appleton Police Department. Nicholas's story continues to be a reminder of the unpredictable nature of life and the enduring hope for answers. It's a tale that speaks to the heart of every adventurer, every nature lover, and everyone who believes in the power of community in the face of the unknown. Michael Fiser, a 51-year-old from Southern California, epitomized the spirit of an off-the-grid adventurer. Adopted into the Fiser family along with his sister, Michael quickly embraced a life that intertwined with the great outdoors. His family fondly recalled his exceptional memory, particularly for hiking trails and paths, a skill that makes the circumstances of his disappearance in 2005 all the more baffling and heart-wrenching. On June 15th of 2005, Michael embarked on what was supposed to be a routine solo hike in Yosemite National Park, entering through the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. His initial plan was to hike through a series of scenic points, including Rancheria Falls, Tiltil Mountain, Lake Vernon, and Beehive, before completing the loop back to the reservoir. However, in a last-minute decision that would later puzzle everyone, Michael chose to trek along the Pacific Crest Trail towards Tiltil Mountain instead. Fellow hikers on the Pacific Crest Trail reported spotting Michael on his way to Tiltil Mountain. These sightings would later be marked as the last confirmed instances of anyone seeing or hearing from him. The alarm was raised on June 19th, when Michael had still not returned from what was intended to be a short hike. His family, familiar with his tendency to overestimate his hiking distances, initially hoped that there was a simple explanation for his absence. They recalled a previous incident in Yellowstone National Park where Michael had severely injured his ankle and had to painstakingly crawl out of the trail until he was rescued. As concern mounted by June 21, 2005, Michael's family reached out to the Yosemite National Park Rangers to report him missing. This triggered a comprehensive search operation. Teams of search and rescue workers, along with volunteers, meticulously scoured the Pacific Crest Trail and the surrounding areas of the park. Near Tiltil Mountain, a particularly rugged and remote part of the park, searchers discovered Michael's backpack. The backpack contained a topographical map, a water bottle, and a camera, but there was no sign of Michael himself. His car was later found parked in the Hetch Hetchy parking area, adding another layer of mystery to his disappearance. Despite extensive searches by land and air, including the deployment of scent dogs, no further trace of Michael was ever found. The absence of clues has led his family to fear the worst, that Michael might have encountered foul play or suffered an injury off the beaten path, leaving him unable to seek help. In the years following his disappearance, Michael's sister has become a fervent advocate for hiker safety. She dedicates her time to educating hikers about the risks of solo trekking and the critical importance of being adequately prepared for every hike. She also volunteers to assemble hiking backpacks, ensuring that they are equipped with essential supplies suitable for various terrains and weather conditions, a tribute to her brother's legacy. Michael Fiser is described as a white male with gray hair and green eyes. He stands between 5'8" and 5'10" and weighs between 150 to 165 pounds. At the time of his disappearance, he was last seen wearing a faded blue or gray t-shirt with the sleeves ripped off, olive green or khaki-colored shorts, and a torn pink or red scarf. Notably, he was not carrying adequate supplies for an extended hike, and he also had a beard and mustache. This story resonates deeply with those who share a passion for the wilderness and the mysteries that it holds. Anyone with information about Michael's disappearance is encouraged to contact Yosemite Park officials. In the winter of 2018, Konstantinos Danny Philipus, a 49-year-old firefighter from Toronto, embarked on what was supposed to be a routine annual ski trip with fellow off-duty and retired firefighters. Their destination was Whiteface Mountain in Wilmington, New York, a popular ski resort known for its challenging trails and picturesque views of the Adirondack Mountains. Philipus, an intermediate skier, was among a group of 9 who looked forward to enjoying the slopes. On February 7th, their last day at the resort, the group planned to wrap up their trip and head home. However, Philipidis, feeling enthusiastic, decided to take one final solo run down the mountain in the afternoon. His friends, tired from the day's activities, chose to wait for him at the lodge, located midway down the mountain. As Philipidis ventured out, a severe snowstorm began, significantly reducing visibility and transforming the skiing conditions. When Philipidis did not return by 4 p.m., the ski lift ceased operation. His friends grew increasingly worried. After waiting an additional 30 minutes, they reported him missing. The discovery that Philipidis' personal belongings, including his car, passport, phone, and ID, were left untouched at their accommodations. This intensified concerns for his safety. A massive search operation was launched involving forest rangers, ski patrol, New York State Police, Homeland Security officers, U.S. border officials, and over 100 Toronto firefighters who traveled to assist in the search. Despite the use of helicopters, drones, and sniffer dogs, Philipidis remained missing as weather conditions worsened. 6 days later, in a stunning turn of events, Philipidis was found over 4,500 kilometers away at the Sacramento airport in California. He was in a disoriented state, still wearing his ski clothes, including his green ski jacket, black helmet, and goggles, and also carrying his ski helmet. He had a new iPhone, a credit card, $1,000 in cash, and had recently gotten a haircut. Philipidis had no clear memory of how he traveled from New York to California. He vaguely recalled riding in the back of a big rig truck and sleeping a lot during the journey. He wasn't able to recall purchasing the new phone or how he ended up at the airport. After being located, Philipidis was questioned by law enforcement, but showed no signs of drug or alcohol influence. He speculated that he might have suffered a head injury, leading to his confused state. He was taken to a hospital, but was discharged without any sign of physical injuries. The circumstances of his disappearance and journey to California remain largely unexplained. Philipidis himself later suggested that he might have taken a wrong turn after separating from his friends, leading to a fall near a children's ski slope. He believed he had hailed a truck for a ride back to town, but could not provide details about the driver or the truck. Philipidis' experience raised several medical theories. Dr. Charles Tater, a brain surgeon, suggested that Philipidis might have suffered from retrograde amnesia due to a concussion. Dr. Jennifer Ryan proposed that he might have experienced a dissociative state, a rare condition triggered by trauma or emotional disturbance, leading to a temporary loss of personal identity and impulsive wandering. Despite extensive investigations and medical consultations, the full story of Philipidis' disappearance and journey remains shrouded in mystery. His memory loss and the lack of clear evidence have left many questions unanswered. The incident continues to intrigue and baffle experts and the public alike, with the true nature of what happened to Philipidis during those 6 days in February of 2018 remaining a profound mystery. Thank you for watching until the end of this video, and if you've enjoyed this content, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new and upcoming content. Today, we plunge into the enigmatic story of James Griffin, a tale nestled in the wilds of Washington State, a narrative that beckons to all lovers of nature, hiking, and the great outdoors. James Griffin, at the age of 60, was an inhabitant of Port Angeles, Washington. Those who knew him would describe him as a devoted individual. His heart echoed with the rhythm of the trails, and hiking was his solace. But fate threw a curveball when James, a laborer by profession, met with an injury to his foot. Yet, his spirit remained undaunted. Originally hailing from Michigan, James found a newfound love for the Washington State terrain. The magnificent Port Angeles isn't just a picturesque town, but it's also the gateway to the enchanting Olympic National Park. For those unfamiliar, let me paint a picture. The Olympic National Park is nature's masterpiece, a land where meticulously maintained trails stretch out, some even paved to perfection, leading explorers to mesmerizing destinations. Amongst the many wonders of the park, James had a particular fondness for its therapeutic hot springs. With his injured foot, these springs were more than just a natural wonder, they were his sanctuary. He would often find solace by soaking his feet, letting the warmth ease his pain. As winter cast its frosty veil on December 22, 2014, James sought the comforting embrace of the springs. Despite the chill, he intended to make a brief visit, absorb the tranquility, and then return home. While the park did offer camping spots, it required prior reservations and paperwork. But on this day, James had a simple day-long hike planned. That fateful morning, he texted a friend, hinting at his beloved destination. His friend, knowing James's love for the springs, wished him an enjoyable trip. By around 10 a.m., James, in his Subaru Outback, was en route to Olympic National Park, a place where he proudly held an annual pass. And so, with a heart full of adventure, James set forth towards the trailhead, completely unaware of the mystery that awaited him. Now, let's delve deeper and uncover the enigma of James Griffin's journey. The specific trail stands out for its meticulous upkeep. For the most part, it's impeccably paved, providing clear passage, even across challenging terrains. It's not one of those ambiguous paths where one wrong turn could leave you disoriented. This trail is undeniably prominent, ensuring even the novice hiker won't lose their way. Reports suggest that James embarked on this trail around 10 in the morning. However, as time went on, the tone of our story shifts. Christmas Eve arrived, a time of merriment and gatherings. James was expected at a festive dinner, yet, as the clock ticked, James was nowhere to be found. Concern gripped his family when Christmas morning dawned, and there was still no word from him. Arriving at James's residence, they found his dog, seemingly distressed, having been left alone for an unsettling number of days. This was completely out of character for James. Concern quickly spiraled into panic. Following discussions with James's acquaintance, including the friend he had last texted, the family deduced that his last known location was the Olympic National Park. They promptly alerted local law enforcement about his mysterious disappearance on that fateful Christmas day in 2014. Local authorities collaborated with the Park Service, bringing them up to speed about the missing James Griffin. It was presumed that he might have ventured towards the hot springs, a place he often frequented. And, in a serendipitous twist, one park ranger, recalling the description of James's vehicle, remembered spotting a similar one stationed at the trailhead parking lot leading to the hot springs. The pieces of the puzzle started to come together, but the heart of the mystery remained. Upon arrival at the park's trailhead, investigators were met with an eerie sight. James's vehicle remained stationary, untouched since his journey began. A search of the car yielded a seemingly ordinary receipt from Safeway, dated December 22nd, time stamped at 10:20 a.m. It recorded James's purchase of Folgers instant coffee and, curiously, a Tootsie Roll. While seemingly mundane, these items painted a vivid picture of the beginning of James's fateful hike. Eagerly, the search team pressed on. Their voices echoed off the surrounding foliage as they called out for James, hoping for any sign of him. The trail remained as prominent and clear as always, but James was nowhere to be found. However, an intriguing breakthrough awaited. After a thorough review of surveillance footage, they identified vehicles that had been parked concurrently with James's. One such vehicle belonged to a couple who recounted a fateful encounter with James at the hot springs. They recalled he was in high spirits, sharing beverages with them. The couple noted seeing him later preparing to head back down the trail, backpack in tow. The trail, a mere 2-mile trek, with its gentle slope leading back to the parking area, shouldn't have posed a challenge. But as the rangers retraced his steps, a chilling discovery awaited. About a half-mile from the parking area, near a creek off the trail, they found James's backpack. Concealed with a towel and propped against a log, its contents seemed untouched: a can of Coca-Cola, a cup, and even a cigarette butt of James's preferred brand. Strangely, they also found a mountain meal, a prepackaged survival food, untouched, despite the stove and fuel found in his backpack. Intriguingly, a camera nestled within his belongings provided an additional layer of mystery. The film, once developed, showcased scenic shots typical of a nature lover. However, the last 2 shots deviated from this pattern. Instead of the meticulously framed beauty one might expect, they seemed almost random. One showcased dense shadow foliage across the creek, the other a boulder-strewn stretch of the creek. What was James trying to capture? And then there's the creek. On the other side of where James's belongings were found, the terrain becomes incredibly steep. This region of Olympic National Park is synonymous with relentless rain, making the territory not just challenging, but potentially treacherous. So, with these new details in hand, the quest to unravel the mystery of James's disappearance continues. What might have been a routine hike in one of the world's rainiest regions turned into a perplexing enigma. This backdrop set the scene for a confounding search. Upon finding James's backpack with no trace of James himself, the authorities ramped up their efforts, even getting James's family involved. They introduced James's dog, known for its close bond with him, to the site, hoping it would lead them to him. The attempt, however, was futile. Undeterred, park rangers deployed 3 separate canine teams in the subsequent weeks. Despite the expansive search, they found no trace of James. The relentless rain, characteristic of the area, coupled with the ensuing dense fog, hampered the efforts considerably, leading to a scaled-down search. Only 6 personnel, paired with 3 canine units, continued to search for James. Surprisingly, about a month after his disappearance, on January 25th, one team made an unexpected discovery. On a steep incline opposite the creek, considered improbable terrain for James due to his known foot injury, they found a Tootsie Roll wrapper. James's recent purchase receipt corroborated this find. Further up, a devastating discovery awaited: James's body lying near a log. Bizarrely, there were no injury marks or signs of trauma, and he seemed to be fully dressed. After a forensic examination, the results only deepened the mystery. The coroner identified the cause of death as hypothermia, labeling it accidental. This verdict raised many questions. Why would James, equipped with a coat and seemingly prepared for the cold, sit by a creek if he felt hypothermic? Why would he cross the creek and ascend 1,700 feet on a challenging incline, despite a debilitating foot injury? Furthermore, the earlier involvement of canine units failed to detect any scent of James. Only by sheer chance did the team decide to explore uphill, and even then, the dogs only acknowledged the presence of a body when virtually on top of him. The circumstances of James's final moments, from the inexplicably missed scent to his mysterious uphill journey and Tootsie Roll wrapper, leave us with more questions than answers. Olympic National Park boasts lush, dense greenery, a backdrop to James's puzzling tale. Imagine a man positioned to prepare a meal by the creek, only to traverse it and then journey uphill, seemingly just to eat a Tootsie Roll. One might wonder if it was even James who consumed the candy, or perhaps someone or something else. Oddly, the coroner's report adds another layer of mystery. The documented time of death is January 25th, the very day James was discovered, despite him being missing for 30 days. In such conditions, one would expect some level of decomposition, but surprisingly, James's body seemed unaffected. Furthermore, tests revealed no trace of drugs or alcohol in his system. The situation seems inexplicable. A man on disability decides to venture half a mile from his vehicle, sets out to make a meal, and then is possibly interrupted. What could have prompted such a man to cross a creek and ascend steep, rugged terrain, only to meet his end from hypothermia next to a log, apparently an entire month later? It's a perplexing case. The official report states James's death was accidental, caused by hypothermia. The theory suggests James deviated from the well-maintained path, consumed a Tootsie Roll, and then ascended further and met his fate a month after his disappearance. The narrative is baffling, and I'm eager to know what others think. Could James have been coerced uphill by an external entity or force? And if so, why does his body show no evidence of distress or trauma? And where was he for the duration of those missing 30 days? I'd appreciate insights and theories, as this case leaves me with more questions than answers. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Andrew Bliss, a 23-year-old man, was a familiar figure in the small, tight-knit community of Pulaski, New York. With his tall stature of 6'2" and his brown hair and eyes, it made him quite recognizable. His life in Pulaski was unremarkable until the events of June of 2003, which set in motion a series of events that would lead to his mysterious disappearance. Bliss's life seemed to unravel when he abruptly quit his job following a painful breakup. The breakup had hit him hard, leaving friends and family concerned about his well-being. It was this concern that escalated when Bliss suddenly left town in his gray 2001 Chevy Impala without a word to anyone. His departure was so sudden that when he became unreachable, panic set in among those who knew him. On June 23rd, with heavy hearts and a sense of foreboding, his loved ones filed a missing persons report with the New York State Police. The plot thickened when 3 days before the missing persons report was filed, a call came in to the Sawyer County Sheriff's Department in northern Wisconsin. An abandoned vehicle had been spotted parked on the secluded Federal Forest Road 162, a remote area 2 miles north of State Highway 70. The vehicle, a gray 2001 Chevy Impala with New York license plates, was registered to Andrew Robert Bliss. The scene at which Bliss's car was found was eerie and puzzling. The vehicle was deserted, its doors left open as if inviting an unseen presence. The keys were still in the ignition. The gas tank was completely empty. Despite a thorough examination, no clues were found in or around the car. This lack of evidence was confounding, but what added to the mystery were reports from locals who claimed to have seen Bliss. They described him as walking along the road, smiling and waving at passerbys around 8 a.m., not far from where his car was found. A particularly chilling account came from the driver of a logging truck, who claimed to have seen Bliss walking that morning. According to the driver, Bliss was dressed in a long-sleeved shirt and pants, and he turned to wave. This fleeting interaction is the last confirmed sighting of Bliss. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the Sawyer County authorities launched an extensive search and rescue operation. The area along Federal Forest Road 162, where Bliss's car was found, is known for its challenging terrain, a densely wooded forest with swamps. The search party included the Sawyer County Sheriff's Department, the Fire Association, 2 planes from the Civil Air Patrol, and 3 canine units. They combed an 8-mile section of the National Forest for any sign of Bliss. The Sawyer County Gazette reported on the search, describing the area as desolate and swampy, a place where few would wander by choice. Despite the exhaustive efforts, the search yielded nothing. The search teams also checked nearby cabins and any place Bliss could have sought refuge, but they found nothing out of the ordinary. Further investigation into Bliss's past revealed that this wasn't the first time he had run out of gas. On 2 other occasions during his cross-country journey, he had made contact with law enforcement for the same reason. Since his cell phone was not found in the car, it was assumed he had it with him when he disappeared. Yet, why he drove to such a remote area in rural Wisconsin and why he didn't call for help remains shrouded in mystery. The local community was not ready to give up. In response to Bliss's shocking disappearance, they formed a Sawyer County search and rescue team. This dedicated group, composed of adult and youth volunteers, underwent extensive training in tracking, clue awareness, navigation, first aid, and other essential search and rescue skills. They resumed the search for Bliss, even using the opportunity to train new members. During another thorough search of the 8-mile section of the forest where Bliss vanished, the team encountered what they hoped would be a significant breakthrough. Cadaver dogs, part of the search team, alerted their handlers to the presence of what they believed to be human remains in a specific area. With each volunteer spaced out every 10 feet, the team meticulously sifted through the underbrush, hoping to discover any sign of Andrew Bliss. Eventually, they stumbled upon a bone at the base of a tree, hidden beneath a pile of leaves. The discovery reignited interest in the case, with local media speculating that this could be the key to unraveling the mystery of what happened to Bliss. The search and rescue team promptly sent the bone to a forensic anthropologist for analysis, leaving the Sawyer County community in suspense for days. The anticipation turned into disappointment when the results returned. The bone, initially thought to be a human tibia, was identified as that of a bear, which bears a resemblance to human bones. With no further leads to pursue, the search for Andrew Bliss hit a dead end. Despite the lack of evidence, the outdoors men and women of Sawyer County remained vigilant. In 2011, the Sawyer County Sheriff's Office began asking deer hunters to keep an eye out for any clues that might emerge in the wilderness. Pat Sanchez, the Sawyer County Emergency Management Director, expressed the community's determination to the press, stating, "We want to bring closure for his family, and we believe someone may have seen something or stumbled across something. Clothing, glasses, bone fragments, something. Anything found in that area could be relevant to this case." The call to action was clear. If anybody had information, even if it seemed remotely connected to the case, they were urged to contact the Sawyer County Sheriff's Department. The hope is that one day, some piece of evidence will surface that will help solve the disappearance of Andrew Bliss, providing much-needed closure to a family and community haunted by this unexplained vanishing. In the expanse of Virginia's Shenandoah National Park, a perplexing disappearance unfolded, weaving a narrative that would perplex and sadden many. Tai Sawyer, an 18-year-old with a life ahead of him, became the subject of a massive search operation after he inexplicably disappeared into the dense forest on the night of April 22, 2021. This was not merely a case of a young man losing his way. It was a tale of sudden and unexplained psychological turmoil, a family's frantic quest for answers, and a search that would end in heartbreak. Ty's life took a bewildering turn in the days preceding his disappearance. His mother, Chandra Maxwell, recounted the onset of Ty's disturbing behavior, marked by hallucinations that shattered the mundane reality of his life. He was a shelf stalker by day, but his nights became haunted by bizarre delusions. He once sent a text to his mother, inquiring why she had dispatched aliens to surveil him at work. He also believed he was conversing with his late grandfather, a claim that was as distressing as it was mystifying. One morning, in a text exchange that would later haunt Chandra, she reminded Ty of track practice after school. His reply was unsettling. He claimed he was already at practice, a clear impossibility that signaled something was amiss. Ty's parents, Chandra and John Sawyer, were deeply troubled, suspecting that their son might be under the influence of an unknown substance. Their fears escalated when John discovered Ty in a state of unresponsiveness, sprawled in their living room, a cartoon flickering on television as if mocking the gravity of the situation. The arrival of paramedics was met with a sudden seizure that gripped Ty, a violent prelude to the chaos that would soon unfold. At the hospital, it took a team of 8 to restrain him, a testament to the severity of his altered state. Despite a clean drug panel, the hospital inexplicably discharged Ty, leaving his parents in a state of desperation and confusion. Determined to protect Ty, Chandra and John faced an unforeseen challenge. Seizing a moment when Chandra was showering, he grabbed her car keys and fled. His attire was casual and ill-suited for the outdoors. A blue hoodie, blue pajamas, and white sneakers, the sneakers still sheathed in yellow hospital booties. Upon realizing her son had vanished, Chandra reached out to Ty. He claimed he had driven to a convenience store, but his failure to return home signaled a dire turn of events. Utilizing a tracking app, Chandra and John embarked on a harrowing chase, following Ty's erratic path through Philadelphia, Maryland, and nearly catching up with him near the White House in Washington, D.C. However, as they approached Luray, Virginia, Ty's cell signal vanished, and with it, their ability to track his movements. Driven by instinct, Chandra steered towards the Shenandoah National Park, a decision that would lead them to a scenic overlook near mile marker 35 on Skyline Drive. The family had no connection to this remote location, making Ty's presence there all the more baffling. They found Ty in his car, windows locked, engine idling, and music playing, but he was unresponsive to their frantic calls. In a moment of desperation, John, Ty's father, pounded on the car windows, hoping to break through to his son. Suddenly, Ty engaged the car in reverse, nearly hitting his father, and sped off into the night. When Chandra and John caught up, they were met with a chilling scene. The car crashed into a wall, the horn blaring, but Ty had vanished into the forest's dark embrace. The search for Tai was a monumental effort, involving Shenandoah National Park officials, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, state police, local sheriff's offices, and a myriad of search and rescue organizations. Despite the deployment of 68 searchers, 4 dog teams, a helicopter equipped with infrared sensors, the rugged terrain provided a formidable obstacle. 2 days into the search, a trail of Tai's belongings was discovered, laid out as if marking a path. His hoodie, pajama pants, and sneakers, culminating with his cell phone, its screen shattered and battery life exhausted. The placement of his items suggested that he had taken a direct route through the densest part of the forest. On April 25th, park rangers announced the grim discovery of remains believed to be Tai's. They were sent for confirmation to the medical examiner in Manassas, Virginia. The cause of death was reported as hypothermia and blunt force injuries. The mystery of Tai's hallucinations and erratic behavior remains unsolved. The family suspects an acne medication Tai was taking, which came with a warning of potential severe mental side effects, could be a contributing factor. However, providing a causal link between the medication and his mental state would be a complex and perhaps impossible legal challenge. The tragedy of Tai Sawyer's disappearance and subsequent death is a reminder of the fragility of the human psyche and the urgent need for mental health awareness and intervention. It's a narrative that leaves a family grappling with an immeasurable loss and a community searching for understanding amidst the silent, towering trees of the Shenandoah. In the spring of 1968, the city of Madison, Wisconsin was the unsuspecting stage for a perplexing disappearance that would baffle the community and challenge the authorities for generations. Michael Larson, a 19-year-old with a promising future, was a student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, known for his academic prowess and quiet demeanor. His life was devoid of the turmoil that often accompanies youth. He was not entangled in a romantic drama, family disputes, or any known feuds. Moreover, he was not burdened by the prospect of military service during a tumultuous era in American history. His disposition was generally cheerful, and his behavior, up until his disappearance, gave no cause for alarm. Michael resided in the university dormitories, but he had been spending the Easter break at his family's home, a period of reprieve before the rigors of academic life resumed. As the break drew to a close, Michael mentioned to his mother that he intended to step out briefly to get a haircut, a routine errand that would soon spiral into a haunting mystery. His mother, accustomed to the independence and responsibility her son had always shown, thought little of it. However, 2 days later, she would receive a distressing phone call from the police that would mark the beginning of an enduring enigma. What Michael's mother did not know was that Michael's departure was not as innocuous as it seemed. Before leaving, he withdrew a substantial sum of $650 from his bank account, nearly depleting it. It was a significant amount of money at the time, equivalent to thousands in today's currency, and it suggested premeditation. Along with the cash, Michael took with him a poncho, suitable for inclement weather, and a map of the Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park. The park, known for its rugged terrain and expansive forests, was a considerable distance from Madison. It was not a place one would venture without a reason. The first tangible clue in Michael's disappearance came when conservation officers in Michigan discovered an abandoned green 1962 Volkswagen sedan. The car was found on a remote back road near a gravel pit in the Porcupine Mountains, a location that seemed to corroborate the map that Michael had taken. The vehicle was unlocked, the keys were in the ignition, and the gas tank was full. This suggested a hasty or unplanned departure from the car. The absence of a Wisconsin license plate was peculiar, and the traces of blood found around the front seat added a layer of concern to the already mystifying scene. The blood led to speculation that whomever removed the plate might have sustained a minor injury in the process, yet the driver, presumed to be Michael, was nowhere to be found, and there were no discernible clues pointing to his direction or fate. The investigation was hampered by the lack of a vehicle identification number, or VIN, a feature that would become mandatory for passenger vehicles only a year later. Investigators had to resort to unconventional methods, such as examining oil change stickers to trace the car's ownership back to Michael Larson. When officers first attempted to contact Michael, they inadvertently reached out to another Michael Larson, an officer at the Madison Police Department. This coincidence initially led to confusion, but eventually helped to connect the dots when the police officer learned of a missing college student by the same name. The search for Michael Larson, the student, was promptly initiated. Michael was no stranger to the wilderness. He was an experienced hiker and backpacker with a keen interest in science. He had previously embarked on a backpacking trip with his younger brother, Tom, to the Porcupine Mountains, the very park where he had now seemingly vanished. Although not an expert in bushcraft, Michael was competent in basic outdoor survival skills and had a familiarity with the park's terrain. The initial searches were fruitless, and the fear that Michael might have fallen into one of the numerous mine shafts in the area loomed large. Despite the mobilization of extensive search efforts, the results were inconclusive. The sheriff's office eventually sent a disheartening letter to Michael's parents, indicating that the search was being called off due to lack of leads. The arrival of deer hunting season, however, brought a renewed vigor to the search. Hunters were implored to remain vigilant of any signs of Michael, and information about his disappearance was broadcast across local radio stations. It was during this time that a hunter from Detroit stumbled upon a chilling scene near the Lake Superior shoreline, a boot with a bone protruding from it. This discovery led to unearthing of a second boot in a similar state, both showing signs of a bear attack. The timing of Michael's disappearance in April coincided with the period where bears emerged from hibernation, often hungry and potentially aggressive, making a bear encounter a plausible explanation for the state of the boots. Several months later, in the frigid grasp of February of 1969, hunters chanced upon an abandoned campsite deep within the Porcupine Mountains. The campsite, complete with a tent, a canoe, and food suspended from the trees to deter wildlife, immediately became a focal point of speculation. Could this campsite be linked to Michael's disappearance? The mystery only deepened when in October of that year, John Courser from Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin, claimed the campsite was his own. Courser's delayed claim and inability to explain the reason for his tardiness in doing so raised eyebrows, especially since Michael had previously worked at a youth camp near Land O'Lakes. This raised the possibility that Michael and Courser might have known each other. In a quest for answers, Tom Larson, Michael's brother, reached out to the now elderly Courser in 2022. Courser, at 90 years old, claimed he had no memory of why he delayed claiming the campsite or of meeting Michael Larson. The case took another turn when efforts to revisit it with modern DNA forensic were stymied by the mysterious disappearance of the boots and bones previously found. These crucial pieces of evidence, along with their records, had inexplicably vanished, leaving the case at a standstill. The enduring mystery of Michael Larson's disappearance remains unsolved to this day. His father, Glenn, clung to hope until his last days, interpreting every missed call or abrupt hang-up as a potential sign from Michael. Michael remains the only person to have gone missing in that park, and the search for answers continues. Tom Larson has provided a DNA sample to aid in the investigation, and cadaver dogs have been deployed once more. Hunters are still encouraged to look for any evidence that might shed light on the fate of Michael Larson. Anyone with information on the disappearance of Michael Larson is urged to contact Michael Knack, park manager, or John Pepin, a writer at the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. The hope for closure, or perhaps a revelation, persists as the mystery of Michael Larson continues to echo through the Porcupine Mountain Wilderness State Park, a beautiful yet unforgiving landscape that holds within it a story yet to be fully told. If you've enjoyed this content from a universe of mystery, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new and upcoming content.